Hello, everyone. Welcome to the Rebbel Prophet. I'm your host, Melissa Jolly Graves, and I am excited to be here. Last week, we jumped right into it. As many of you can tell, I am going to be authentic. I'm not going to be editing, and I'm going to talk about uncomfortable things in my life and what's going on in the world. This is the Rebbel Prophet. This is about truth. This is about helping mold humanity into the way that we were designed, getting down to the nitty gritty of the subjects that people don't want to talk about, that they're uncomfortable with. That's what we're going to do here. That's my job, and we're going to proceed forward. So, as I talked about last week, I didn't have the most uh, loving upbringing. In fact, a lot of it was different types of abuse, whether that be sexual, physical, mental, spiritual, and even things like abandonment. Growing up, that was very hard to understand. But as a child, I had nothing to hold on except for survival. And many of you out there were like that too. In fact, many people listening to this podcast are very like minded. And the reason that we're so like minded is because of our hardships when we were growing up. Now, those hardships, sure, they cause scars within our mind, within the spirit. They have a physical imprint on the physical body. People are known to store certain emotions and events, memories, experiences in different cells and in different parts of their body. In fact, the more you know your body, the more you can find where that trauma came from, where that energy came from. And we can start to identify it, we can start to heal it, and we can step out of the survival and into a new way of living. But that's what I want to talk about today. Stepping out of the survival and into the world where your environment is what you choose. Because several of us were dropped into an environment that many humans would not have chosen that course to be in. But I do want to even step behind the scenes of life and offer a new solution, a new perspective. Now, I knew coming into this world the parents that I picked. In fact, I searched the entire world and galaxy for the perfect mother and father pair with the exact chromosomes and chemicals and even statues of avatars that I could choose. And I picked them because I knew that if I were to embrace the gifts and the lessons, that I would be able to step out of the environment that I was in and one day help change the world, help inspire others. I know that this life that I have chosen to live has never been a life about me. This has always been a life that I give to others. A friend of mine the other day, it was really funny. We were sitting on the couch and we were talking about just business in general and careers and the fact that we both do so much, but we have very little money. And I said, even if I have the money, I tend to always gift it away and to want to help society in multiple different ways. But I really need to open up a nonprofit so that I can help build these schools and these temples and everything that I'm wanting to build. So I can't be afraid of the money aspect anymore. And my friend just looked at me with confusing yet stern and realistic viewpoint and said, "Aren't you already a nonprofit?" And we both kind of laughed. And he said, "I know I'm a nonprofit. I've been a nonprofit all my life." And yeah, I guess when you put it that way, that is what it is. So I will be opening up a nonprofit for Let's Be. And it will be a place where I can help gift money to open schools and to open different temples and different places of harmony for people. And it's going to be great. It was because of my upbringing, because of the mental and physical and sexual abuse that I am who I am today. Now, most people, when looking at their life and looking at their upbringing, if it was not a healthy upbringing, they tend to carry that energy with them. I was a victim. This happened to me. Poor me. I'm not worth it. I'm not steady. I can't do better. No one will love me. No one will care. No one will help me. And you get yourself into a position where you become so independent and so dependent on yourself that asking for help is uncomfortable. Stepping into healthy relationships is uncomfortable. And so it needs to be worked out. But how do you step from a place where it was chaos and hurt and pain, aggression, lies, manipulation, and survival into a place where you can be loved, you can relax, and you can accept help? It's not as easy as one thinks. In fact, that was a hard journey for me. Many times when I would get into class projects, when something needed to be done, I tried to take the lead on the project because I knew I could get it done. I knew I could get it done right. I knew depending on myself was the only way to depend on life. When it came to relationships with friends, with lovers, when things got too good, I created chaos myself. I would start to see things differently. I would take off my rose-colored glasses and I would start to pick things apart. I could be in relationships. I was okay with courtship. I was okay with dating. I was even okay with boyfriend and girlfriend. But the moment that somebody told me, I love you, and they meant it, and I felt that they meant it, it was like a stab to the heart. It hurt. It didn't feel good. It made me fearful. It made me scared. I wanted to run. I didn't believe them. I would sit in my head and pick myself apart as to all the reasons that they shouldn't love me. And then I would go tell them. It would start arguments. It would start the disconnect. My lack of confidence and my lack of ability to be in a healthy relationship caused me pain. And for a while there, I just thought it was because it was my worth. I believed the things that I was saying. But the things that I was saying to myself, it wasn't true. It wasn't valid. It wasn't correct. But what did it mean if I said I am loved? What did it mean if I could receive help? What would it mean if I was in a healthy relationship? It meant a lot, which is why I would reject the one relationship versus rejecting the friends and family members that treated me poorly. Because my life and growing up was about disconnect, abuse, abandonment. It's what I knew. I knew how to survive. I knew when the ball was going to drop. I learned actions. I learned patterns, words, tones. I became hypersensitive to all the things that were around me. And in that hypersensitivity, I became aware, more conscious. I had to use logic because emotions were not allowed in the home. You would get called names. You would be put down. You were seen as weak unless you were happy. And even then, sometimes family members got jealous and tried to break that happiness. So when I stepped into a relationship, a good relationship, with now my third husband, he didn't allow me to push him away. He loved me enough to hold me near. He knew when I said, "You don't love me," that it was just a rejection of myself and not really him. Why did this happen? And why do so many of you go through that same thing? Where you get in a nice, loving, safe relationship, you're not getting abused in any way. All of the words are compliments. Everything that is said is about your beautiful future, the beauty inside you, the beauty outside of you. Somebody in this world sees you different and you like it. And you start to gain a little bit of confidence. You start to think that it's okay until those mighty words, "I love you," come out. And when the words, "I love you," came out, all I could think about was, when are you going to hurt me? When are you going to leave me? When are you going to laugh at me? When are you going to start to put me down? And when they didn't put me down, when they didn't hurt me, when they didn't say awful, horrible things, I started fights. "You're going to cheat on me. You're going to leave. You don't really love me. No one could love me." And it wasn't a rejection of myself. It wasn't a rejection of the person. It actually took years to figure out what was happening. And it wasn't until I was in a reading with somebody else that I found the answer. When you are in a place in this world that you have not been correctly loved, you have not been in a healthy relationship, you have not had people support you and cheer on your success, when that happens, your whole world feels wrong because it's nothing you felt before. And you start to question yourself. For years, you question yourself. For years, you wait, anticipating the pain to happen. And when it doesn't happen, it becomes more uncomfortable and more uncomfortable. And the reason is because you start to see that the problem wasn't you. The problem was your environment. The problem were the people around you and the words that they said that cut you down to put you into a place of distrust. And now, if I fully engage and fully believe, and we'll go back to my husband, Andrew, in the spot that I was in, when I fully went back to believe that he loved me. And it was said in this reading to this gal, if you were to believe that that one person loved you in your life and that this is what love and safety, compassion and empathy and healthy relationships feel like, then it means that every single person before that lied to you. It means they didn't love you the way that Creator intended love to be. It means that they abused, misused, manipulated, and hurt you. They took away your ability to feel safe. They took away your ability to have relations with other people. They took away the ability to love yourself. And that's how you'll see it at first. If you're in the pain, you should be loved. You have the right to a healthy relationship. And I'm sorry if anyone abused you in any capacity. I'm sorry that you have that weight on your heart. But one thing that I've learned about people that have been in abusive situations, whether it be sexual, emotional, verbal, spiritual, those people seem to have the most amount of logic and the most amount of kindness in their heart because they didn't want to hurt those others. They didn't want to help them. You're a good person. You're an emotional dumpster where people come and dump it all on you and you can handle it. You're strong, courageous. You can make it through the day, if anything. The things that you thought broke you actually made you stronger. You're just carrying the emotion with you that was attached to that experience, that moment. But as the new day began, it maybe was a chance and an opportunity for you to see things in a different light, a different view. So we're going to go over that today. And that's what we're going to talk about. And I'm going to openly speak on the things that I went through. I'm going to openly speak on the process that I had to go through to change myself and to have faith and love in myself. Because one thing that I've learned in this world is if you don't know how to love yourself, you can't help others to love you. If you don't fully love yourself, you cannot fully receive love from another person. And if you have not fully loved yourself, you have never given yourself an opportunity to be in a relationship. So I had to sit and say, my husband's right. I had to take a long look in the mirror and say, I'm beautiful. I had to take a long look at my history and what I have done and how I have reacted in certain situations to realize that I truly have wanted only love and kindness for everyone. I rarely go out of my way to hurt others. But why? Well, when it came to the physical abuse, I realized that when you hurt somebody, when you physically touch somebody in a way that is inappropriate, the person that is being abused, they rarely get upset with the abuser. They rarely say, you hit me, I'm gone. And it might just be a punch. It might just be a slap. And the abuser thinks it's done. But what you're really pounding into that person is that they're not worth physical safety. You steal a part of their innocence. You steal some of their trust and their vulnerability. When you emotionally abuse people, those words get embedded in the cells that they live with. Frequencies change within their body. Illness, sickness, and the physical and the mental start to react. The system starts to break down. When you spiritually hurt someone, the spirit tries to disconnect from the body. No longer there. It leaves an empty shell of a human being, one with a living body, but is vacant in spirit. This leaves opportunity for ghosts, for angels, for demons, for other things to come into that body. Sexual abuse carries on to the descendants, changes the hormones within a woman, changes the mind in a man. It doesn't just allow for sexual exploitation. In fact, it's sexual exploitation. You are taking part of their sacredness, part of their human right. You are shaking the very foundation of creation, as creation starts within the genitals. This can have implications with faith, attitude, self-worth, physical ailments, and so much more. And when we go through those types of abuse and things are taken from us, it is up to us to fulfill our own needs. It is up to us to help patch ourselves back. Now, when I went through the emotional abuse that I went through, I remembered the pain, feeling down, feeling depressed, suicidal. What was the point of being here? His sexual energy thankfully stopped me from being too sexual in life. I honored my body. I kept it closed. I kept it safe. When it came to the spiritual, I fought for my spirit to come back. Not only was it an issue with myself, but it brought on a big issue with God. I hated God, despised God, and I knew God hated me. I felt it. No one could tell me anything different. I was hurt. And I only had my parents, my family, and some ex-friends. But God all turned against me. I had to fight for myself. I had to fight for my existence, and I had to bring myself back. I took a journey one day, as the angels have told me. It was a day after I had my sanctuary put together, and I was told to go into the office, into this very specific room that we called the creator room. The entire thing was black. All of the room was black. Nothing on the floors. Ceiling black. Light switches black. And we shut off the lights. And in that darkness, Creator told me to scream, to yell, to do anything to get out the emotions that I was carrying that were not helpful for me to be a healer, a prophet, or even a good friend, wife, mother. And as it put me into this room, the angels came and they mocked me. They mimicked me. They put images in my head and memories in my head of the things that had happened in the past. They told me to yell, scream, say anything I wanted to anybody who had ever done me wrong. And so I proceeded. I yelled profanities. I screamed. I cried. I puked. I had pillows all over that I threw. I was punching the pillows, strangling the pillows, because at that moment, Creator said, all of the goodness in you is gone. Take it all out. Take it all out. And get it all out. And so, like a feral animal, I just reacted. And I kept reacting and I kept puking and I kept purging and I kept screaming and yelling and crying and falling to the ground and catching my breath and then getting back up and throwing the pillows and making a mess and a mockery of my life and myself. I was hot. I was sweaty. I had snot on me. I had puke on my shirt. I had sweat all over, tears all over. I was a mess. And when I couldn't give my pain anymore, when I couldn't say another word or lift another finger, the room lit up with the angels and God. And they said, "Did you get it all out?" And I said, "Yes." They said, "Do you have any more in you?" And I said, "No." And they said, "Okay, let's insert the light." And I turned on a little night light in the room, a Himalayan salt lamp. And they said, "Now sit. Now that your anger, your sadness, your frustration, your worries have all been stripped of you and you are exhausted of feeling that, let's look into the love and let's put that into you. And we want you to go and take that energy and insert it into your younger self because you were here for the childhood trauma healing, right? You had heard all these books, you had heard all of these videos and people saying that we got to go help clear that childhood trauma. And at that moment, I went in to help put light and healing on this little 5-year-old girl that had just been taken advantage of by the world. And I went to put light on her, and I went to put healing on her. But it came back to me. I saw her. I saw her eyes. We stared at each other. I was confused. It didn't make any sense. How is it that this girl who was so abused and so unloved, so shunned by the world, how could she be so full of love and light? And it was because she was my warrior. She was my healer. And she was so pure and so innocent and still so close to Creator that she had so much to give. So confused, I stood and I stared at her and I said, "Well, then what am I to do? I came here to give the light and the healing." And she said, "Melissa, work with me. Work with me. I want to show you something. I want to show you where you've been holding me." And I said, "Okay." And suddenly I see this castle. And as I walk closer and closer and closer to the castle, it starts to look a little bit more like a dungeon. And this dungeon has doors. And I go and I walk up to the dungeon and I open up this very, very, very heavy door. And it's so hard to get open, but my spirit can. It has the right locks, codes, equations, energy, whatever to open this up. And I opened it up and I saw all of these cages. It was like jail cells, just all the way down. And I have all of these different things, and I'm going, "Oh, okay." And I start walking down. And one by one, I start seeing myself full of light, but in the cages. And I'm confused. And I'm looking around and wondering where the guard is. Why are they all in these cages? But there were no doors. But they couldn't get out. And they didn't leave the dungeon. And so I asked each child, which was the younger version of me, even into my teen and 20 years, "Why are you here? Why are you here? Why are you here? Why haven't you left? There's no doors. Why haven't you all worked together to push that one big door open?" And the answer I got was not what I thought it was. They all said, "You told us to stay here. You told us to hide here. You put us behind the doors and the dungeons and in the rooms because you thought it would keep us safe. And so we stay here, waiting for the day that you come and you, Melissa, open the doors, and you, Melissa, realize that all of us are warriors. We already made it through the words. We made it through the action. We made it through the moment. We made it through the time. We survived, and we still have love, and we still have light. But you, Melissa, you shut our doors to try to keep us safe. You told us to stay here because you didn't think we had enough power or energy to be free in the world. And because you didn't want the world to hurt us, we haven't had a chance to experience the world. We've been stuck in solitude and loneliness, despair. The walls you put up. And I specifically sat with one of the younger children on the first day of my sexual experience. And this little 4-year-old looked at me with the brightest eyes. She had a sword in hand. The sword was of crystal, not of something to slay, but of something to bring power. And she told me, "That day I fought for you. I screamed, I yelled, I kicked. I continued to do so until I was 6 years old. Until that one day that my yell was loud enough. My scream was heard. I knew where to kick. I knew how to bring the bad boy down. And I defeated him. And his mother heard and brought him into the police, where he was found that he was doing this to 5 other girls. I not only saved myself, I saved you, and I saved 5 others. Why do you hold me in contempt to your trauma? Why do you treat me like I was bad because I saved you? Why do you keep me away from everyone else when I could save others?" And it was at that moment that I realized that there was no childhood trauma. The children that lived within inside me were full of love and light and happiness, innocence. They wanted to help the world. The trauma that I was dealing with was the emotional hoarding that I had, the emotions that I carried, the things I didn't want to let go because I wanted the story to be different. I wanted the story rewritten. I didn't want shame. I didn't want guilt. I wanted pride. And I knew at that moment that I had to be somebody who this 4-year-old, 5-year-old, and 6-year-old looked up to. I took my power back. I set down the trauma and I opened up the book of lessons for what happened those moments. Because when I was being abused in these situations, each of them taught me how not to be. Each of them taught me how to love deeper, how to be kinder, how to observe and to witness rather than speak. The lessons that I learned through my abuse, if I learned them, would make me a better person. I would be a more logic person. I have courage. I can stand up to people bigger than me. I can hold peace when there's not peace. I know that I can critically think faster than a lot of people because I was taught that I had to think on my feet and go with the flow. I will not have a drug addiction because I watched it happen and I never want to look like that. I will not be an alcoholic for the same reason. I will never abandon my kids so that they have to feel unloved. I would talk to my kids. I wouldn't yell. I wouldn't put them down. I would be a supporter. As it stands right now, I have a 19-year-old, a 21-year-old, and a 27-year-old. I have yet to be in an argument with my 19-year-old or my 27-year-old. We had a system in our house. When things needed to be talked to or said, we sat down and we talked to them. At times, we brought out a talking stick. And when people had real problems, they would bring out this talking stick and they would place it into somebody's hands to talk to them. We would speak truth through our hearts, not through our angry words or our mind, but through the hearts. And we would help each other. My abuse, everything that I went through, was who made me who I am today. I am thankful for it. And when I went back to look at the situation, this anger and this sadness and everything that I felt about my parents, it stayed within me. And so I had to go back and address them. Well, if it wasn't me, then who? And I went back to mom and dad to see their spirits. And I was expecting not what I saw. I don't know what I was expecting, to be honest. But what I saw was my mom and dad. And they were being overtaken by entities, by demons, by the words that people had said to them, the abandonment that they had gone through. My parents didn't lead an easy life. My mother was not accepted in her family. My father, not accepted in his either. They lived very different lives. They were bullied. They were picked on, raised to be part of the mafia. My mom had a lot of foster kids in and out of her home, which meant that they got more attention than her. When I went to my parents to talk to them about what they had done to me, all I could do was cry. Because it was that exact moment that I realized that no human person in any capacity of healthy love, healthy mind, healthy being would ever be able to do what they did to a child, to something innocent that couldn't fight back. The demons and entities that were around them were trying to bring them down. And it was at that moment that I really realized I wasn't raised by parents. I wasn't raised by humans. I was raised by the entities and demons that they have chosen to invite into their life. And these demons and entities didn't have compassion. At my sister's wedding, my stepmother, who also is not a very good person at times and has done really bad things. In fact, my siblings also were adopted and put into foster care just like me. Because whether with my father or with my mother, both sides were not optimal parents. And that's okay. They had their stress. They didn't deal with life before they had a life to take care of. And I get that now. So when you look at a person and you see their actions and what they do, you have to take into consideration that it is possible that they're not even around. That wasn't a possibility in my head. But when Mama Sandy says, Melissa, can you do energy work on me? Well, we were at this funeral, and I say, yes, I will. And I do energy work on her, which was a huge jump. Pardon me, I gotta plug in the computer, guys. There we go. Still haven't cleaned. Still going through some stuff out in the outside world. So this is still my storage room, guys. But anyways, so I put my hands on the stepmom who has gone through addiction, who has put abuse on my half brothers and sister, who has led a life of drugs, of poverty, and of crime. What I found was magnificent and scary all at the same time. I put my hands on my mother, stepmother, who at that time was in her 60s. I lay my hands on her and I start to do the healing. And the healing brings me to a place where she was 3 years old. It's Easter. She has this beautiful, beautiful dress on. She's so excited. It's this purple dress and it has pastel colors of yellow and of pink. And she gets this dress on and she's dancing in this dress and she's just having a great day. Mom and dad are arguing. She steps into the middle of the argument and she's trying to dance and trying to play. And mom is just too overstimulated and so frustrated. And dad just says, get her the fuck out of here. What the fuck is she doing here? He starts complaining about mom and the daughter and how he doesn't want either of them in life. So mom hears this, the child's crying, and he takes my Mama Sandy, or sorry, Mama Sandy's mom takes her very aggressively, very violently, because she's in an argument and in a fight, and scoops her up and slams her on the chair and says, do not move. Screams it with all of her soul. Mama Sandy, 3-year-old child, looks at the parents and sternly believes at this point she is an unwanted burden. She believes the words that are being said to her. You are not wanted. You are not welcome here. Stay out of the way. Stay here. Don't go anywhere else. And she takes it literal. Her innocence doesn't understand that it was frustration and anger and emotions that were guiding the moment rather than reality. Because her reality, as she's learning these words, is to take every word as it is. So she disconnects her spirit at that moment and she leaves her body. Leaving a 3-year-old child, a vacant hotel or Airbnb for anybody who's paying rent to get into her. And unfortunately, that rent was crack. That rent was men. That rent was horrible people and horrible thoughts. And so that humankind breaks. The spirit leaves, and I realize that this woman has never, ever reached the age past 3. She lost spirit and has been vacant since 3. And so my brothers, my sister, myself, we were being raised by a 3-year-old. And whoever came into mom's body in between that was who was talking. which is why she kept changing her attitude and changing her words so much. It's because she didn't have the spirit. So when a ghost walked by and said, "Ha, I want to live," it took an opportunity to go through her body. That's why some of the memories, some of the things that she was saying didn't make sense. And maybe that's true for some of you out there, that you were raised by people that were so abused that their spirit left their body. And you think they're supposed to be parents, you think that they're adults and they know better, but the truth is nobody taught them better. And that despair led not only onto people and not trusting people, but to God. I can't tell you how many times I threw my dang fingers up to God. God loves me. Bull crap. God's there for me. Bull crap. I pray things are going to be better. Bull crap. F you, God. You hate me, just like my family hates me. And because I felt like God hated me, I made choices. Choices that maybe I wouldn't have made if I knew God was there. Maybe if somebody had taught me that Creator was there. Because I didn't understand it. And so when I had sex at the age of 14, oh, well, I had already had sex, right? I already lost my virginity. God already hates me. When I punched that boy in the face for saying something wrong to me, I didn't feel bad. I was already going to hell. If I lied, oh, well. If I sinned, oh, well. If I stole from Super America, oh, well. I was going to hell anyways. God hated me, and I was sure of it. And if God hates me, then people are going to hate me. And if people hate me and God hates me, there was no way to love myself. And I'm quite sure many of you out there feel the same. So I start this journey because I feel spirit. I'm seeing angels, I'm seeing demons, and it doesn't make sense, this whole God thing. I'm in search of something new. And then I see this show. I grow up. I'm starting to really try to trust my husband, that he loves me. I'm starting to see things in myself. I'm starting to heal myself, see that my parents aren't the people that I thought they were, see that I need to unlock the chains of my childhood and let my child free, because she is the dang warrior I want to be. And then another series of events happened. I go on to be a healer. I start seeing different things. Somebody asked me to help somebody who was dying. I lay my hands on them, and all I could see is the regret of everything that they said too much of and things that they didn't say enough of the times that they should have taken and the times that they did take. I start to see the regret in humanity and how somebody who's dying will not pass over because they realize they missed so much or they did it wrong. They want to go back to the beginning. They want to go back and do it all over, but this is the end and they can't. So the only thing that they can do is make it up in their mind. And I start to see the falls of humanity. I start to see how other people put on hate and resentment towards others that didn't need to be there. I start to see that they saw themselves as a more loving person than they gave themselves credit for. And then I see death itself. We die, and our physical self goes back to earth. Our spiritual self goes to what would be closest known as the heavens, of that with Creator. But everything that's in the mind and all of the emotions and things that are in the mind are left in the in-between world. This is what makes up ghosts. Hell is the moments we did not get through in life. Hell is the emotions that we chose to hang on to in life. So if my mother abused me and my mom hit me and I never got over that, then when I die, I'm going to go back to that moment and that time. This is why ghosts haunt at the same time, in the same place, same moments, and even same reactions. Every day at 3:13, if there's a cup on the counter, the cup's flying off in the kitchen. Because hell is all of the moments that we were not able to work through and find some kind of balance within our life. So anything that you have done unto others or other have done unto you that is not closed out in this world, you're stuck in it until a descendant helps you through it, or until somebody comes around you and shows you a different way. Maybe you're counseled by a ghost counselor. But saying things to ghosts like, go to the light, you're okay, you're loved, doesn't work, because whatever could have gone to the light would have gone to the light. And that's so scary to me, to think of all of these people, that hell would be a loop of the worst moments of your life. So in this life, I'm going to try to forgive, to change my perspective, to honor love and appreciation, to take lessons instead of trauma, so that when I die, my body goes to earth and my spirit goes back to spirit. I want nothing that is left in the mind left behind. I want no trauma, no uncomfortable emotions left here. I'm ready for a change for myself and for my descendants, because if I do not get over the abuse that I had, I'm going to send that on to my children. They're going to be afraid of being abused before anyone ever hit them, and their children and their children and their children, because it's within my energetic code. It's within the light, the photons, the blood that is carried from generation to generation that will carry that energetic imprint. And so in this world, it is up to us to do what we can do to get through things. Now, as my journey goes on, I watch The Secret. I start trying to do manifestation. Everything's working for me. Everything's good. I'm seeing the angels. I'm seeing the demons. I'm doing the healing. I'm putting messages out there. And I have this woman come in to my facility. And she says, you talk to angels, hey? And I said, sometimes. What do they say? Depends on the message. How are you with Jesus? Fine. He's just somebody I walk with. Now, I don't put Jesus on a pedestal, and we'll talk about that in a different episode, but I can walk with Jesus. I can hang with Jesus. Jesus actually helped me learn how to heal and lay my hands on people. So you believe in and you're close to God. I couldn't answer that question. I was conflicted. I was confused. Then came the questions, how do you heal if you don't know God? How do you walk with Jesus if you don't know God? That was a great question. But a lot of the things that she said, you have crystals. Why are you working with crystals? Well, the crystals are in the Bible. The Bible was already a thing and it needs no more messages. Yeah, well, our world today is different, so we need adaptation. So as I'm having this argument with this woman gets on her knees and prays and says, I pray to God that the devil's out of Melissa and that there's no demon in Melissa, because nobody talks to angels except for those of the Bible, and nobody deals with crystals and nobody deals with whatever. And she looked at me and said, what do you have to say? And I got down on my hands and knees and I prayed. And I prayed for the first time. And I said, God, if there's any demons, if there's any evil, if there is anything in me, I pray with this woman. And I ask that you expel it from me. I ask that it leaves my body. And I ask that you show me your true grace. And I was shown in that moment. And I went home and I started looking at the Bible and I started reading the Bible. And I thought, what the heck? This wasn't what I remembered when I was young. So I went to Goodwill and I grabbed other Bibles. And then I put them side by side and realized that what they were saying weren't true. And then I went and grabbed more Bibles and more Bibles. And eventually I got to 29 Bibles, put them verse by verse by verse, and started to read them to find out only 183 of the Bible verses were untouched among all of the 29. Many words, tones were omitted, were added, were changed. And so I realized at that point, if I were to ask myself, what was God? What is God? How is God? I am on a God journey and I want to see what that is. And as I went through this journey and I went through studying, I ended up studying 507 different religions. And of all of these, in the beginning, there was a God of war, a God of life, a God of light, a God of dark, a God of chaos, humor, and creation, control, ego, authority. Didn't speak a lot in the beginning of many religions about harmony or peace or love. In fact, it was opposite. What I was being shown was if you sinned, you had to grab one of your animals, depending on your sin, and you brought it to the church, i.e., the tabernacle, where they had slabs that you could lay your animal on. And you cut your animal, and the blood ran down these slabs. And it ran into 2 different slides that ran into the tabernacle. And all the blood drained into a pool of blood at the tabernacle. And the body parts of the animals were parted out. And they were very particularly parted out. Some of the priests got some was made for the incense. The first incense that was ever made in multiple religion was the burning of animals. And God loved the smell of flesh. And I'm reading all of this, and I'm thinking to myself, we are made in the image of God. And when I looked at what God was throughout 106 of these religions, it stated, I am the beginning, the end, the light and the dark, the life and death, the Alpha to Omega, which means every single letter A to Z and everything in between those. I am that I am. I am the first to live and the last to die. So then I took this into an equation. And I saw it and I thought about it. I asked the angels, I asked my guides, I asked the ancestors, and I asked myself. If we were to put all of this into a package and make this a riddle, and we were to take an overlook of Creator, what would we see and what would we know Creator or God as? Energy. Because only energy could be male and female, in, out, light, dark. If energy starts, then life begins. But if energy ends, then life must end. Energy carries tones and frequencies, which would be any single word in anybody's language, written, spoken. And so I came to the conclusion that Creator was energy, which is why multiple times in multiple religions it says, I will be with you whether you choose to do good or you choose to do bad. And so I think, well, if Creator's energy and God's energy, and in the beginning, God was all these bad, this egotistical, go stop anybody who thinks about another God. Don't do this, don't do that. Kill this person, starve this person, shame these people out of town, make them drink the golden cow, make them sick, give them the plague. And I'm looking at all of this stuff, and it occurs to me that God wasn't as divine or as loving as I had thought. And so it makes sense that God's okay letting evil things happen, because God, in the beginning, as stated in many religions, was not a very nice thing. Was actually somebody that just came to control and told people how to create. It wasn't until a Messiah, Jesus, Muhammad, Horus, any of them came to live to show that there was a different way, that God even changed its way. It wasn't until the Messiahs that love was even born. And I felt sad for Creator at that moment. I thought, wow, something with all of this power in the world, and it's still angry, and it's still sad, and it still says kill, starve, plagues. So what happened to God? What happened to Creator that was so bad? And I went back in meditation. I asked for many years. I read many science books, many religious books. And I came to one conclusion, that our Creator was abandoned by the other creators. It was told to leave. It was banished. It was thrown into the darkness alone. And it had to start from its independence. It had to start from a life not of light, not of love, but of loneliness and survival. It had gone through hell, and it was in hell. And it was looking for a different way. And just like me and just like you, it needed someone to love it so that it knew change and it knew something different. And so I decided at that moment that I was here to give love to God, because God was like me. It had all the horrible thoughts. It had sadness. It was scared, or it wouldn't have said, go after the other people and shut them down. God was feeling what I felt. God knew me because I was in the image of God. And so I started believing a little bit more. I started believing more and more. I dug deep into every subject that I can, 52 subjects, 507 religions, multiple science books, self-help books, family dynamics, college studies, everything. And I started to put it all together, and I found the similarities rather than looking at the differences. And when you find the similarities, you can find Creator. Very specifically, can be proven that Creator exists. And then I start my journey. And I have one gentleman come to me while I'm talking to a friend. This friend and I are talking about God and Creator and the angels and Archangel Michael, Archangel Metatron. We're bringing out everything that we were getting from these different angels, finding on the ground, finding in fields, whatever. And it was interesting because the stuff that I was finding when it came to Metatron was the same thing that this other person had found. And his friend is witnessing this at this time, and he doesn't believe. And he looks at me and he said, if you truly believe in God, if you truly believe in what you're saying, if you believe in these angels, if you believe that there can be goodness, tell me right now in a way that I would understand. Make me believe, God. Make me see it the way that you saw it. If you believe it so hard, tell me how to believe. And I prayed. And I closed my eyes. And I prayed more. And finally, when I got the answer, I opened up my eyes and I looked at him. And I said, have you ever been in a situation where it was almost kill or be killed? Like you're in your own home and SWAT team is out there and the whole world is against you. You feel like the whole world is against you and you have an opportunity here. You could kill yourself. You could wait for them to take you down and to kill you. You could kill them. And those are only options that you saw at the time. Kill or be killed. The whole world against me or me against the world. And you sat there and you pondered the killing. And you thought, I'm going to do it. And you go to pull that trigger. And something took over. Something took over in your body, a breath, a moment, a heartbeat that said, I have better for you. Put the gun down. There's a better option. I choose you. I will take care of you. I will love you. I will take the next breath. I will take the next step. I will lead you through the moments. Just put the gun down and have faith. And I told him when I was in my biggest despair, when I was in my biggest moments, when I wanted to kill myself as I once had tried, when I wanted to hurt others, that there was something that came into me in those dark moments, not in the light moments, in the moments of despair, and said, I have you and I'm going to take care of you. Even though you don't understand it, I got you. And that for me was God. That was the moments when I was too weak to live, too weak to breathe, too weak to make a choice to move on anymore. Something came in me and something came in my body and said, I will choose better for you and I will take care of you. I will carry you and I will get you through this. That is God, and that's why I believe in God. And that man started crying. And that man said, Melissa, do you know my story? Has Jamie said anything to you about me? No, I just met you. I'm going to prison in 3 months because I held my wife hostage with a gun. And outside my house was helicopters, police, SWAT, everybody. And I was going to kill her. And then I was going to kill myself. But something happened when I went to go pull the trigger. And I dropped the gun. And I dropped to my knees. I let her be free. And I turned myself in. And what you just said there was a moment that I can remember when I was too weak and I would have done something dumb, but something took over. You see, your life might be hell. It might seem like shit. It might seem like everything is going wrong. You might be depressed, have anxiety, suicidal thoughts. You might think life is not worth living, that you can't go on. You don't know how you're going to survive the next moment. You don't think it's possible. In those moments, that's when God shows up. God doesn't show up when you're doing good. God doesn't show up if you're already holy. God doesn't show up. Oh, God shows up when you're holy, sorry. But God won't appear to you only when you're holy. And I remember this other moment with this child. And this child had not been to church, and mom and dad were going through a divorce, and the dad was a Christian, and he always wanted to bring the kids to church, but mom would never allow it. And he said, Melissa, will you come with me and the kids to church? Absolutely, I will. And I did. And I went, and this child was confused because it was a Catholic church. Stand up, sit down, kneel, stand up, sit down, kneel. It was also a singing church. So sing, kneel, sit down, pray. After prayer, everybody knew to say amen. Everybody knew to say the prayers that were said. It was in unison. And halfway through, the boy stopped responding. He just stayed seated. After the sermon, the same thing happened. He just stayed seated. Couldn't understand why. And so his father asked, what's wrong? And the boy said, I don't know how to act. I don't know how to dress. I don't know what to do to show up for God. And I'm looking at all of these people, and they know what to say, and they know what to do, and they know how to act. He felt bad. And so my friend said, Melissa, can you have a talk with him? And I said, yeah. And I said, you know what? God's not in churches. People believe God's in churches, but God's not in churches. God's in you. And God doesn't show up when you're in your most glory. God doesn't care what you wear, what your life has been through. God doesn't care that you're hurt, that you're mad, that you're angry. In fact, those are the moments God shows up when you're broken, when you're ugly, when you have nothing else to give. You don't have to act a certain way. You don't have to act righteous. You just have to act real. And you just have to ask. Because when you ask God for help, something happens in God the same way as God recognizes its worth, that it's needed, that it's wanted. And it will love you back. And I realize that God just hurts like we do. And it's up to humans to actually help Creator. It's up to us to be the messiahs, to put the hope and the love back in Creator. Because like many of us, its family abandoned it, threw it into darkness, stripped it of its light, didn't allow it some creation codes that the other creators have. Because our Creator showed emotion, our Creator developed emotions. A code that was not in Creator's world before that. In fact, if any of you have ever gone on a journey through meditation, through medicine, through hallucinogens, or anything, when you see Creator, there's codes, there's colors, there's information beyond your wildest dreams. And those codes in creation cannot be messed with. And some of you who have gone on DMT trips, maybe acid trips, I've heard it in, or meth. I'm not condoning any of this, so please know that there are many different ways to find Creator. You do not need to do these things. It just needs to be a trust system and the ability to surrender. And a lot of these medications, drugs, and things, that's what it brings you to. It forcefully surrenders you. But what you would have noticed, and what I have heard from watching videos and hearing people, is that you can go into this room where there are these creators, but you're stuck in this box because they don't want you to partake in it, but you can observe, because anything that you do will change creation itself. And so it's almost like a zoo where they have you look out and you can see all the creators working. You can see all the codes. You can see everything that they're putting together. They don't allow you to be a part of it. And this was where Creator was. And Creator was in this world, and it was helping and it was working, but it wanted something different. It wanted something new. It wanted movement. It needed more structure. Water then was created that had flow, that had bend. It could manipulate things. Creator loved the flow, loved the water, fell in love with water. And love was the first emotion. And it was the emotion that got stuck in Creator that wasn't stable. It wasn't a line. It wasn't a triangle. It wasn't just an absolute color. It could camouflage and move through all of it. And although loving and good, it still disrupted the flow of creators. And they tried to rid of that energy and rid of that emotion. And our Creator was in love with being in love. He created joy and excitement and all of these other emotions, which then shook the reality of creation. Over and over, they asked Creator, stop. We cannot have this. We need structure. We need logic. But it was already part of Creator. And so they banished Creator. And they said, go into the darkness, into the light. You get nothing. You get no more codes until you know better. But our Creator knew love existed now. And it was a beautiful feeling, and it couldn't release it. And the lack of love was what created anger, frustration. In fact, in a lot of scientific studies, love and anger will show up the same on brain scans because both are passionate. And anger usually will stem from something that is lack of love. Either you're not getting love or you see that something is not getting love. And so in our world, things are based on emotions. It was a gift Creator gave us, a way to bend reality. On yesterday's meeting, we heard something called liquid geometry. And I love that word because that's what emotions do, is they make the geometry be able to mold and melt in ways that they hadn't been able to before. Emotions are okay. They're needed. But like the beginning of the Bible, when you're sad, when you're upset, when you're frustrated, when you have ego, believe it or not, you're closer to Creator than you think. Your creation and you being the creation were made in the image of the Creator, who came to this world and made this world based on hoping love was going to be a thing, but also had the idea that it couldn't be a part of something bigger. So God is in that same place as us. And that's why God comes to you in your despair. That's why it feels closer to you. Once you reach that moment of love, oof, oof, the Creator and God, which really are the same thing, just different aspects of that. There's different hierarchies of things. And we discussed this yesterday again in the meeting, as somebody said, Melissa, can you explain Creator's creator and creation and all of that? Because you had separated them. And I'll explain that here too, in the same way that I explained it in the meeting yesterday. Let's say that you have a house. In that house, a family moves in, and there's a father and a mother and children. In that house, it is up to the man to make sure that the house is protected, cared for. His laws are the rules, and he makes decisions. We would see him in the family as a God. He is the God. What he says, what he does is the way that it is. He lays the rules. He gives us a space to live. He provides for us. And he leads his family. Then we look at the home outside of just the family, and we see that the home is a house. Now, that house that was there was not created by God. It was not created by the Father. In fact, it was created by a construction worker, a single construction worker who came to build that house. And he put all of his love and everything into that universe and said, here, you can make whatever you want out of it. And the inside, this is the structure. Adapt it the way you want. God is the one that makes the rules and governs over that house. But the Creator was the one who made the house. And then outside of that, there are also other creators that provide codes for the structure of that creation, such as the nails, the doorknobs, the windows, the glass. And each of those creators, creations, nails, doors, windows, were put into the creation. And the creator, with other creators, energies, and resources, made the house. That would be like the universe, the Creator that made the universe. And then God is the one who governs over earth. So there are creators that are above God, and God also can be the creator, just as we are making artificial intelligence and robots and moving parts, and we are creating buildings. And our creation of children and our creation is made in the image of us. There are things that are above Creator. There are things that are above God. But God resides with us. And we must have empathy for Creator too. And the understanding that it, like many of us in the beginning of life, had to survive and make do for itself. But when you survive and you make do for yourself, you have a wiser outlook on life. You can help people along their journeys. You can start to accept love. You can start to see your worth. And when you start to do that, then you can start giving love and value to other people. The people that are in my life that have gone against me, that have hurt me. Cheers to you. Thank you. Thank you so much for being the person I didn't want to be. Thank you so much for challenging me, making me question myself, making me question my morals, making me question my character. Thank you. I love you. I love that you were in my life so that I could define who I was. Thank you for being in my life so I could see what I didn't want to be. Thank you for showing me who you are, so I now understand how I can be around you. The people who help me in my life make things easy. They didn't push me like you did. They didn't challenge me. They didn't get me angry or passionate. You did. And so I thank you, God. I thank you, Mom and Dad, aunts and uncles, people that choose to go against me, to turn their backs on me, to talk behind my back. Thank you. Because every time you did that gave me an opportunity to show who I truly was. You have taught me so much in this world. I have no ill will, no hate for you. I forgive you. In fact, I feel sorry for you. I feel sorry for my enemies for not being part of my life. Because now that I've done the work and now that I have honored every single age, and I went down to when I was 0, when I was 1, when I was 2, when I was 3, and I do it every year. And I honor every Melissa that came before me, every age. I thank them for making me who I am. And I now believe that I am a beautiful, loving, godly person. I believe that my words are impactful. My energy matters. And my love is unlimited. That doesn't mean my boundaries are. I've now learned boundaries. I've now learned how to see lies, manipulation, evil, chaos. I was born in it. God gave me the opportunity to learn it so I can spot it out as an adult and call it out. Your enemies, the ones who taught you how not to be, the ones who were mean to you, believe it or not, they made you a better person. They gave you an opportunity to learn who you are and who you didn't want to be. I love myself now. I accept myself. I love God. I love you. I love. I might not always like, Now, no, you should love everyone and everything. That doesn't mean you have to like them, because you don't. But it is my duty to love. It is my duty to care and to appreciate, because I want to make this world a better place. So if you're struggling through relationships, if you're struggling through things, I would ask you to step aside, to cry, to scream, to have that moment to let it all out, get it all out of your system, so that you could see yourself as a clear inspiration to yourself. Take yourself out of what you've been through and put yourself into third person perspective. Tell your story. Because a lot of you, while you're playing victim and you're saying, I was a victim in this world, you're not a victim at all. You're a victim to your own mind, a victim to your own thoughts. And so therefore you make up things. You believe things that are unreal. When you really truly see yourself and you pull yourself out, you'll see you made it through every single moment, which is why you are able to watch or listen to this podcast right now. You're breathing, you're living, you're here because you're a warrior, because you made it past those moments, you made it out of those moments. And the only one that's keeping you in the cage, that's keeping you in the trauma, that's keeping you in battle is yourself. Open that dungeon door. Ask the children to come play. Let them out. Honor them. Tell every one of them how great of a job they did. Well, in the death doula, I will tell you that that is what I saw, is when people die, they have to say what they did to earth. This is what I did, and it's shown everything bad. Every time you polluted, every time you cut down a tree that didn't need to be cut down, every time you threw something into water, earth knows. And it takes tally. And it holds you until you've made right. But all the good, anytime you've picked up trash, you've cleaned the water, you've preyed on the lands or preyed on trees, that's taken into consideration. Anytime you've done good, I don't care if you're a serial killer, serial rapist killer. If you've done good, you're going to spirit. But what happens to the mind is that it takes every single year of you and it puts you and that you in front of each other. And you go up to your infant self and you tell them how your life is, how they impacted your life in those moments. And you sit with them in that moment. And you sit with them in that time. I choose to tell my past self what a good job they did so that I could survive and be the person I am today. I now thank my 4-year-old self for screaming. I thank my 14-year-old self for running away. I thank my 23-year-old self for fighting back. I don't hold the moment against them anymore. I hold it to them and watch them fight it. But not with war, not with words, but with grace and love. And that grace and love opens up for healing. So I ask you and I challenge you this week to go to every single year before the year that you live and face your younger self. Do you want to tell them, I never had sex again? I never experienced my body. I never trusted anybody. I never truly lived because I was sexually abused when I was 6. Could you imagine telling a child that fought so hard to stay alive and for survival that that day meant nothing to them because you lived sorrow and anger and shame and guilt the rest of your life because that moment happened? Even though they fought hard for you to get out of it, they went through it and they survived. Could you imagine telling them that your life became nothing because something was taken from you? Devastation would happen. That 6-year-old would have given up had they have known you did. They wouldn't have fought back that day. They would have laid down, taken the beating, taken the words, taken the killing, taken the rape, and they would have never fought it. They did fight it because they believe in you. Creator believes in you. And that's the next person you face. You don't face your brothers, your sisters, your mother, your father, friends, enemies. No, in death, you face yourself and you face Creator. Nobody else exists in the room. Nobody else gets to speak for you in that court. You and Creator. So when it comes to the opinions of others and what they think of you, please don't stop living because of their beliefs. Live your life as only you and Creator can judge you, because that's the truth. What other people say, what other people do, it really is not your business, even if they talk about you. And I say that a lot. I have a lot of people who love talking badly about me, who love saying the things that I say are not truth, are not real. And that's okay. There's going to be more. And it's going to get worse as I come out. And that's okay too. Those people, I'll read their messages, I'll hear what they have to say, and I'll ask myself, are they right? I'll ask myself, how can I adapt and change? Because obviously there's a lesson that can be learned here, either from them or from me. I don't hang on to the words that they say anymore because their words are of earth and not of God. And I love working with the beyond verbal people that I work with. If you've seen Let's Be Telepathy with an BEE, like a little bee, like Melissa means honeybee. If you've seen any of that, it all is derived in love. What lessons did you learn from the people that challenged you or hurt you? What character did you grow because of that? Who did you become because of that? And let's only come up with the positive things. Because when you start seeing what you actually went through, what you survived, and that you came out with kindness in your heart still, you'll have no choice but to fall in love with yourself, to see the beauty and the strength that you had within yourself the whole time. And when you are allowing of that energy, when you pull that energy out and you bring it to the forefront, others will see it too. And then you'll be able to actually be loved. You'll be able to start healing those that hurt you. And life won't be as hard as you thought it was. In the beginning of a lot of religions, it said, Creator, God, Allah, whatever, talked about the light coming and the light was good. So I say unto you, if you are still partaking in the light and you are not completely trapped in the darkness, if you're able to see light, feel light, witness light in any capacity, it means that you still have good in you. You still have good around you. You're not a waste. You're a treasure that hid. And the world needs you to come to the surface and to show yourself. Because your energy is beautiful and loving. And because Creator has been through these emotions and then was seen to have love, Creator has love back in its heart again. And when you give love, when you give God love, miracles happen. Beauty happens. Protection naturally happens. And this relationship between you and Creator, it starts to be what the world was intended to be. And even the things that make you feel uncomfortable, you utilize them as good. You see that there's an opportunity for change. You are not broken. You might be bent. You are not your past. You are who you choose to be. You are not your environment. You are your thoughts. And if you're waiting for God to come to you in the most perfect place, know that that will never happen. So when you're sad, when you're mad, when you're upset, when life seems to be too much, go to Creator, go to God. It'll find you. The contrary to what people believe, God sits in the darkness and waits in the darkness. Remember, light was created after God was already there. So where else could God sit but in the darkness? And so when you're in the dark spots of your life, you're with God. Give mercy to yourself. Grace. Allow the wisdom of the trauma be able to be the knowledge of the future. You are a creator. And within each of us, we have a specific gene actually called V, as in V, like violin, MAT, M-A-T, 2 gene. And this is the only gene that is known as the God gene. And this God gene is in science lies within the ribosomes before the DNA, and it's a specific protein that happens. And the more and more closer that you are to Creator, the more of this gene you have. And it helps you heal. It helps put the right proteins into the DNA so that the good epigenetics are taken into consideration rather than the bad. And the more faith and the more religion that you have, the more it grows. Now, religion, I want to say, is an independent belief of a paranormal phenomenon that happens outside of the body. That is the absolute definition across board of religion, an independent belief of a paranormal, i.e. God, higher self, but it could even be ghosts. If you believe in anything outside of yourself that you cannot see, that is religion. And I want to talk about this. We're going to talk on the next one, because as we talk it into God, religion itself has changed its meaning. People see religion as something bad, but it is not. It is independence. Believing in something outside of yourself so that you have the faith to know that when you can't carry things, that someone else can carry you. Now, cults are any one or two. Actually, let me grab the dictionary here. One of the many, and I'm going to just read right outside of this. But cults, ooh, let's see here. I apologize. I probably could just look this up in Google, but I'm not going to do that. I feel like I want to read it for whatever reason right outside of this book here. So let's go to cult. A cult, a system of religious worship that reference its rites and ceremonies, a select adhering to common ideologies or doctrines of a leader, especially adherence to devotion based on factual beliefs or dogma. It is the instant or fixed, almost religious vegetarian for person or a thing. Well, that's probably why I wanted to read it to you guys. There was a lot in that description there. Cults are any people that come together that force their laws and their belief systems onto others and say that it's wrong. Now, churches are worship centers for Christianity. Christianity is the belief that Jesus is the Savior. When you look at religion and what that and how many people are part of the Christian religion or Catholic religion, as it stands, as of last month, it was 29% of the world, which is the biggest religion in the world. A lot of us come from Catholic religions, from Christian religions, and we go to worship centers that are Christian-based worship centers called churches. And we stand there and we say amen together. We say the same prayer together. We know when to take communion together. Everything is in unison. There are rites, rituals, ceremonies, laws that the religion is saying. I am here to tell you that any organized religion are cults. I am here to tell you that Christianity is the greatest cult that has ever existed within our existence, and they have done God a disservice by telling people to fear it and to be afraid of it, and that they are not like God, and that God does not love them if they have sinned, because every day we sin. Now, Jesus loves you, and I believe in Jesus, and he is my homie. He has taught me how to heal, but he has very specifically said, do not worship me. Very specifically actually said, don't worship anything. Give thanks, give gratitude to things. But worshiping gives away your energy. And so we can give thanks, we can give prayer, we can give hope, we can give energy. But worshiping gives away your right. And for said religion to come out and to say that anything that is not of Christian is of sin, is sin itself. We do not have very many religious leaders that are not cult leaders this day and age. And in fact, any organized, and I say any organized religion is in fact cult. That is why they point out cults to everybody else, because they don't want you looking at them. Now I go to church. I go to temples. I go to ceremonies. And I'm not going to pretend that I don't, because I absolutely do. And I absolutely love the love that is there. But when I go, it is a relationship between me and that creator, and me and creator alone. I take the words into consideration. I take the advice into consideration. I do not live by those words. I have a very specific relationship with creator and God on my own, as should you. And I even say, if you come up with that relationship and that relationship is good, I would not tell people the name that you call it, because God is an onomatopoeia. That is why so many religions have so many of the same stories. Do you know how many 106 different religions have somebody that parted the sea? They have Noah's, something that had an ark, had two animals on it, flaming bushes, a child born out of wedlock and sex. The information is there, but we all perceive it in a different way because we see God in a different way. And I say this as if somebody was standing in the room and we have chairs all around. Not a single person on any chair would ever see that person standing in the center the same, because they would all see a different perspective, a different glance, and they would all be at a different angle and a different light to see them in. So every single painting that was asked would be wrong. Now, if that person in the middle was asked what was their name, and that person said their name, but they couldn't speak words, they only spoke in tones and frequencies. Let's say that I was the person in the middle and I said, oh, every single person in that room would say that I said something different. They would each give me a different name based on the onomatopoeia, which was the tone makes a sound, and what was the sound that that tone made. A cow only says moo in the United States. It says ma, it says wah, it says wah in different places in different countries around the world. Our onomatopoeia for the sound that a cow makes is moo. Our onomatopoeia for water falling is drip. God comes in tones and in feelings, not specifically words. So when God comes to you and you say, what is your name? Everybody's going to hear it differently. It is not up to you to follow anybody else's religious beliefs. You can compare. That's fair. You can come up with the similarities. Excellent. Now we just amplified God's energy. But you should not blindly follow somebody else's religion. And if you do, and they're telling you that's the only way, you're following a cult leader. This is strictly why I tell people, do not follow me. Do not fan on me. I am not your leader. I am just a person speaking. And that is it. That's all I do. I talk, guys. That's the best I can do in this world. Share my experiences and my perspectives. I am not a God. I'm not to be worshipped. I'm not to be dawned upon. And my beliefs, I will tell you, but I will also say, come to your own belief yourself. Do not partake into the cults unless you independently feel called to do so. But also know that if somebody comes to you and says what you're doing is wrong, is not godly, is not this, and if you're not Christian, if you're not Hindu, if you're not Punjabi, if you're not this or that, that you're wrong, that's not true. God will love you anyway. God will care for you anyway. And in fact, in Exodus, it says, make my boulders into the altars. Let no man use tools for what I have already given him. And let there be no stairs to the altar so a man can see another man's not nakedness. Nature is where the churches should be. Nature is where God's at. A lot of things nowadays are built, they're structured, and a lot of the people go on stages where they have stairs. And if we're truly believing that this is true and that the words of the Bible is true, and these were the words of God, then why do we step into places that have structures? Jesus took them all down. God took them all down. Every Bible, every temple that was ever made in any of these different religious places, it was taken down by God and Creator itself. By Jesus. Jesus went and ruined the Jewish temple. Jesus got baptized in the lake, not in a pool in a room. God doesn't have walls. God has you. God is there, believing in you, praying on you, and hoping for you every step of the way. And if anybody told you any differently, I'm sorry. And if anybody's going to get you out of the emotional despair, it has to be creator, because only you two are the witness fully to what happened to your life and fully of the benefits that happened during that pain. Pain is beautiful. It's an opportunity of art. If you have white walls of purity all the time, you have nothing but white walls and they'll make you go crazy. The pain gives color, gives shape. Absorb it, make it be usable for you, and make your pain, your life, your relationship with self and with God a beauty of art. May peace be with each and every one of you today. I hope you enjoyed this podcast. If so, like, share, comment, tell me what you guys are thinking. Tell me more of what you want to hear about. What do you want me to talk about on the next episode? Otherwise, we're just going to go day by day, step by step, until we reach where I'm currently at. The podcast it's not about me. It's about you guys. I'm doing this for you. I'm doing it for me because God says, get the word out. Tell them I love them anyway. Tell them that they could do something bad. I did too. I made people murder. So it said. I mean, I really don't actually believe that God intended to murder anybody or wanted that. I don't know how much I believe in some of that stuff. I believe that it was written by man. And did you know that the Bible actually was never supposed to be something that was written? There was never prophets that wrote it. There was never anybody sitting down to write it. In fact, it was the start of the Black Ages when different kingdoms and stuff started to see that people that were spiritual, a lot of them pagan and a lot of them different beliefs that lived like native people. They believed in the ground. They had relations with the ground. They were getting more people there. They were achieving higher health. Crops were better. They didn't understand it. And so they went and raided the homes of the people. They took their journals, their diaries, folklores, stories, letters to each other, songs. Some of it was made up, some of it wasn't. And then they put what they wanted of the Bible in there. It was a compilation of different people from different houses and different stories. And they put it in and they called it a Bible. King James slaughtered many people that actually spoke up against the Bible and said, this isn't true. This was man-made, not God-made. God wouldn't do these things. And I believe that God believes in love, and I believe that God wants love, and I believe that that's why the human drive is to love, 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 and want to be loved and have love is that is the pure essence of us. Creator knows and wants to love you. He wants to believe in you. And I don't believe for a second that it actually wants any bad onto people, but it allowed it. It allowed it. And I understand. Murder, suicide, the biggest sins that ever existed throughout humanity, and the most punished on the other side. I want to let you know that committing suicide will not allow you out of the pain. In fact, it'll put you in greater pain. And several people who have tried to commit suicide have come out stating that they almost died. And in that death, they were surrounded by many demons that were trying to rape them, that were trying to kill them, scratch them, make them feel uncomfortable. They were trying to bring them down to the depths of hell. Suicide is a trick of the devil. You do not ever get out. In fact, you go further into pain. And I've also seen it that once they pull you down and they take all of your energy, they spit you back onto earth. And usually within the first week of a suicide, somebody is reborn into life because Creator says, that wasn't the date that we chose on for you to die. And it'll give it new life. And I also see the descendants for years and years and years that want to also have the suicide. So if you commit suicide, family members are more than likely to want to commit suicide. Same with killing people. The two things we need to stop. I'm going to leave you with all of that today. We'll talk about more next week. We'll talk about religion. We'll talk about cults. and go more into the depths of this. I love you. Peace be with you. God be with you. And may you truly see yourself as the beautiful person that I know and God knows you are. The rest of it is just unresolved trauma. And if you take a look at it and you see yourself outside of that trauma, as though you're witnessing somebody else, you'll be amazed that you made it on the outside. Praise yourself, give yourself glory, give yourself hope and faith, and allow you to see yourself as the strong, courageous person you are that made it through that moment. I love you all. Signing off.